In this lesson number 5 on Ableton Live, I want to show you some other things that we can do to our MIDI tracks. So I'm leaving off with the same material from lesson number 4. This is that Adele progression. And so I'm just going to deal with this progression. I don't want to hear the second track, so I'm just going to unactivate it. So this is my activator. So now this track won't play. I'll only hear the first track. Okay, so you can see this is grayed out here. I'm not listening to it. So one of the really neat tools that we have in Ableton Live is there's an area here called MIDI effects, and there's something called an arpeggiator. And what I can do is I can arpeggiate chords that I have on a track. So I'm going to duplicate, so I'm going to grab this clip and drag it down into an empty area here, not one of these tracks. These are audio tracks. If I do this, actually, it'll convert the audio track to a MIDI track. So I don't want to do that. Instead, so I undo, Command Z, I'm going to drag it down here to an unused region and drop it there. And now I actually get a duplicate of that track. Now I've lost my clip, so I'm going to hold down the Option key, Alt on a PC, and click and copy it. So now I have 2 tracks that actually have exactly the same information. I'm going to move this track up here so we see them side by side. And I'm going to change the sound of this second track. So there's my first track, here's my second track. I'm going to delete this mellow piano and grab a different sound. Whoops, actually that just deactivates it. So I'm going to click on it and hit the delete button. So now I have no sound on this track. And I'm going to go into Instruments and let's find a different instrument. So I'm going to grab this thing called Past Keys and drop it on here. And now let me solo this track and hear what we have. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under MIDI Effects and click on this arpeggiator and drag it into the track. And so now we have this thing called an arpeggiator. And let me play from the beginning now. And so what's happening is this arpeggiator is playing the bottom note, then the middle note, then the top note, and going back and forth. It's sort of automatically playing whatever notes we have selected here. In fact, if I record enable this track right now, because the arpeggiator is still connected, let me look at the arpeggiator. I'm just going to hold down a note. So just because I'm holding one note, it's just going to arpeggiate that. I'm going to hold down 2 notes. I'm going to hold down 5 notes. I'm going to hold a really kind of dense chord here. Or if I just hold down a triad. And so what I can do is there's some settings here in terms of the arpeggiator, in terms of the style, the groove, the sync, and other parts here that will be really helpful. So for instance, style, we have some different features here. So I can go up or down, up, down, down, up and down and up, converge, all these different ones. And I would actually encourage you to explore these to hear the difference of what they are. There's actually some random ones which are pretty cool here. Up obviously just goes up until it gets to another chord. Down obviously just takes the same progression and goes down. There's also, so there's up, down, and up and down. Here's up, down. Versus up and down. So the difference between these two is up, down simply goes up and then comes down. Up and down goes up, then repeats the highest note and comes back down, right? So if I look at my progression, what we'll be getting is I go A, C sharp, E, and then E, C sharp, A when it's set to up and down. So those are pretty handy. I'm going to just keep it on up for right now. Actually, yeah, no, that's good. And then there's some different grooves here, so I can do straight or swing, swing 16th, swing 30 seconds. I'm going to keep this on straight. There's a rate. So right now it's synced to my metronome, whatever my metronome mark is. So I'm going to make this, maybe I'll make it a little bit slower, 110. And now hit play. Or if I change this and make it, so 12 will be triplets. Right, 16th notes. And etc. So we can keep changing this. Let me put it back to 8th notes. So you can also offset this. You can set some different gates, and I would encourage you to experiment with this. We can actually transpose things as well. So this can be handy, and we can also move things by steps. This is kind of handy. So let me actually set this to 1, and you'll hear what happens. I have this set to up, and my step is to 1. My distance is plus 12. What this means is, so this whole area, what this does is, this is all the transpose area. This is all the velocity area. So what we're going to do is I am going up 1 step by plus 12 steps. So I'm going to play the original one at the original pitch, and then I'm going to go up an octave because this is set to plus 12. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Right? So if I happen to set this to something else like 1, what'll happen is it'll play the progression once, and then it'll go a step up to whatever this is. So in other words, a half step. So that's a little funky, right? I'll put this back to 12 because this is a pretty common thing for an arpeggiator to go through octaves. I'm going to set this actually to 2 now. So we're going to go up 2 octaves, actually 3 octaves. We'll have our first octave, our second octave, and a third octave. Until it runs out of notes, unless I do this like to 16th notes, let's say. So that's pretty cool. With the arpeggiator, we can do lots of different kinds of things. Let me play both these tracks together now. So the Arpeggiator is a fantastic tool that we can use to help liven up our electronic music compositions. The Arpeggiator is part of any of the great old analog synthesizers. These would be built in to the actual synth. And here's an actual picture of an old synthesizer, and you can see right here, here's the Arpeggiator right built in, so I can hold down a key, some notes on the keyboard, and it'll automatically arpeggiate them. So great feature on these old analog synths, and a great feature here in Ableton Live.